if I was going to give you a list of non-conference games in 2021, in which we put the Intercontinental Championship on the line, or we put a bid to wrestle for the WWE Championship on the line, and all you had to do was beat somebody to get to the match you wanted to get to, these would be those matches, okay? And the first one of those games that can really flip your fortunes into one where you might be playing for national championships come 2021 is Miami versus Alabama. If Miami beats Alabama in Atlanta, you call it a neutral site, but Atlanta is SEC country. That is their territory. And you do it with De'Aaron King, and you do it with Charleston Rambo, and you do it with Rhett Lashley, you might have something over there, Manny Diaz. Like, this is the year in which Alabama is not, we call it not having a quarterback. Obviously, they have a 5-star in Bryce Young, but when we say that, we say not a dude that is returning as a starter. You're breaking in a new tailback. You're breaking in a new bevy of wide receivers, right? You're trying to depend a little bit more on your defense, but even Nick Saban says you can't play defense in today's game. If you can have De'Aaron King crossing his arms, looking at Bruce Leroy, talking about playtime is over, boy, you might be on your way. You might actually reach that upper level where your mind, body, and soul must be one. That is a game to watch. Miami beats Alabama. Yeah, they're going to get a chance to play for titles. Now, Clemson is at the other end of that, but let's start with that. The next team on this list, for me, has to be Nebraska. If Nebraska beats Oklahoma, we're talking about the front runner to win the Big Ten West Championship or division, and then play in the Big Ten championship game, probably against Ohio State, but Indiana looks good. Penn State might be not terrible. Michigan might not be terrible. Rutgers is on its way up. People are sleeping on Maryland. Like, Michigan State is got year 2 of Mel Tucker, in which they might be decent. Like, it's a loaded division. We know that. But if Nebraska is able to come down to Owen Field, knowing what Nebraska has been in recent years, we'll talk about Nebraska a little bit later on in some depth, and Scott Frost can get the win that his program has needed since he took over the job in what is a rivalry game of rivalry games, yeah, Nebraska is going to be playing for championships as well. Because that Oklahoma team is built to hunt, baby. Like, they out here looking for the whole bear, okay? And they're looking for the whole bear with their bare hands. That's how built they are. So if they can come down, I think the narrative ought to be Nebraska's good, not that Oklahoma's bad, because there are too many people, myself included, that think that Oklahoma ought to win that game by 3-4 touchdowns. Next team on this list got to be Carl Durrell's Colorado. All right. I watched the Alamo Bowl. You watched the Alamo Bowl. We watched Casey Thompson go 8 of 10 with 4 touchdowns through the air. That means 50% of his passes have been touchdowns according to that one game. Like, that's stupid. That's ridiculous. And they play Texas A&M. In a year in which Texas A&M, yeah, they replaced the quarterback, but you also got Jimbo Fisher saying, we're going to beat Nick Saban. And then you got Nick Saban looking at him going, in what, golf? Like, it's like that. Because that's how I feel about Ampersand U, a program that has not won a national championship since 1939, but carries itself like it's won the last 7. All right? If y'all get beat by Colorado, the Pac-12 is back, baby. Like, that's what it is. Like, they all the way back because some other stuff is going to be taking place as well. But I got to say, Carl Durrell might be up for a raise. They go get that win against A&M. And then another way in which Pac-12 might be back is UCLA versus LSU. Now, this might actually end up being a night game, which would be a lot of fun. But Chip Kelly's squad, low-key, might be actually good. Like, they got a couple of dudes out there that I really like, including Dorian Thompson-Robinson. But more than that, LSU might walk into that game expecting a W in the same way that Oklahoma walked into that game a couple years ago and not only expected W, ran roughshod over Chip Kelly and UCLA, but you've seen a bunch of the kids that left have left. The kids that want to be there are there. I like this game for UCLA, but I also like it for the Pac-12 because if they win, Pac-12 is back, baby. So you got 2 games on the program right now in which you get a win against these SEC West teams, not the SEC West teams. Yeah, we're going to talk about you a little bit differently, and we're going to be expecting you to compete for the Pac-12 South Division and play for a Pac-12 championship, and that team to play for a college football playoff berth. All right, Florida State, I'm going to get to in a bit because I know somebody's going to bring that up, but Arkansas is number 5 on this list for me. because if Arkansas beats Texas, it will be a fulfillment of the promise that they showed in 2020. I've been bullish on Arkansas and Sam Pittman for a very long time. I want to see Sam Pittman on the number one ranked show. I think he's one of the more fascinating and fun characters in all of college football, and he's a hell of a football coach. And you look at that staff, the staff is awesome. And you manage to keep Barry Odom as your defense coordinator as Texas was making a run at your mans. So there's some blood there. Also, you can take it back to the 80s. You can take it back to 1969 when it was Arkansas, Texas going after national championships. And that game is in Fayetteville. You want Steve Sarkisian in year one. You want Casey Thompson in his first chance to be a starting quarterback for Texas. You want the National Gatorade Player of the Year in 2019 in Jake Smith. You want all the smoke. You want Pete Kwiatkowski coming down from Washington to tell you whether or not it's really good. And then you want to see if KJ Jefferson or Malik Hornsby got it to go. Probably going to be KJ Jefferson in a way that I never thought it was going to be. I thought Malik Hornsby was going to get that job, but it's still up for grabs and we'll see. But we know what they have at wideout. We know what they got at tailback. We know that defense was outstanding. And Arkansas also gives me the opportunity to tell you that you're wrong about your Matt Corral assessments today. Because as bad as y'all want Matt Corral to be good, Matt Corral threw 6 interceptions in one damn football game against Arkansas. So either you're going to tell me that Arkansas is that much better or Matt Corral is that worse, because apparently all y'all did was watch Ole Miss, Alabama. Y'all decided Ole Miss was good and didn't watch any more Ole Miss football games. Archie, they beat Indiana in the bowl game. They beat who? They did what? Yeah, that's what I thought. But I'm here for Arkansas, Texas, because I think the fan bases really want it. Arkansas's got a tremendously loyal and rabid fan base, and Texas people are all over the place. And I can't wait to see what would happen if Texas loses this game to Arkansas, what the meltdown might be. Because they're not supposed to lose this game to Arkansas, even in year one with Steve Sarkisian. And then the bonus that I mentioned earlier, Florida State versus Notre Dame. Y'all remember Notre Dame versus Texas like 2016? It's kind of the same thing. Like Notre Dame going to be bringing in a brand new quarterback, bringing in a brand new defense coordinator, though I love Marcus Freeman. I think Marcus Freeman is a dude. And Kyle Hamilton is the best safety, like the real safety in college football. I can make an argument that Malachi Moore and Eli Ricks might be better DBs, but as a dude playing center field for you, you're not going to find anything better this year than Kyle Hamilton. But he don't play quarterback and he don't score points unless he Ed Reed returning them. And I don't know if he got that yet because there's only been one Ed Reed. Meanwhile, Mike Norvell has been recruiting his butt off. Shout out Mike Norvell, who was a GA when I was a cheerleader, tossing girls in the air, catching by the feet, and was learning under Malzahn and was learning under Todd Graham and cut his teeth at Arizona State as well. And then goes over to Memphis, turns them into a world beater. And now is at Florida State, managed to stymie the revolution that Marvin Wilson was leading by saying, hey, look, let's sing Kumbaya. Let's come together and let's try to do something. Because if you beat Notre Dame, a team that played in the college football playoff, and then you're able to put together the kind of squad and the kind of season that turns some heads, yeah, we could talk about you in the ACC. But again, Miami, North Carolina, Florida State, all in that second tier for me. Clemson, we know what Clemson is, and somebody's going to have to beat Clemson for this to be real. But it has the potential to be a tone setter for Florida State going forward. And I don't think anybody's really going to get upset among the neutrals if Notre Dame catches an L, because as much as people claim to hate Alabama or claim to hate Texas or claim to hate Ohio State or Michigan or whatever, most people can congregate around, we don't like Notre Dame. So I think there's going to be a bunch of people that are rooting for the public school to beat the private school in a game that is going to matter to the private school quite a bit, but it's going to matter to the public school even more. So watch that game, Florida State beats Notre Dame. So I said 5, and we gave you 6.